All right, so today we are doing one of my favorites, St. Louis ribs, and I'm gonna be doing it on my offset smoker with some delicious oak wood. So I'm super excited about this, but this is not gonna be any normal St. Louis style ribs. I'm gonna be doing a little experiment here, and I'm gonna be trying to do a Carnitas-style St. Louis ribs. So if you haven't heard of carnitas, it is a Mexican taco dish, and it's made with pork butt. Basically like pulled pork, with a Mexican flavor profile on it. A lot of citrus, cumin, the normal culprits for the Mexican dishes. Now traditionally it is cooked in a crock pot or a Dutch oven, something similar to that. Now I've got a solid recipe idea I think is gonna work with these ribs, so let's go ahead and get these started. All right, so here are these St. Louis ribs. You're gonna want the St. Louis over the baby back because the carnitas, like I said, uses a pork butt, a very fatty cut of meat. So the St. Louis is more fatty than the baby back. So that's why St. Louis is going to be your best option. Spare ribs would also work because they're the same thing. You just have that rib tip at the top. So these look pretty decent. There's a chunk over here we're gonna cut off, I think. Let me find this last bone right there. And we'll just square this off like that. Then I just want to go through and kind of get some of these little bits and pieces off. Also, this little skirt piece, I usually trim down. Something like this, you're gonna want to get rid of that. You're gonna trim that off. I mean, you can leave it on if you want, but I would suggest pulling it off. I find when you just clean the meat up a little bit, it just tends to cook a little bit better. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now, if you know my channel, you know I leave the membrane on the ribs. I really think it helps keep in all that fat under here. And when cooked right, that membrane actually is delicious, nice and crispy, holds all that seasoning. Sadly, these ribs already have the membrane removed. So we're gonna be doing no membrane on these. And you can see all this fat under here. This is usually covered by the membrane. So that membrane will keep all this fat in here, kind of cook it from the bottom, whereas now this is just going to render out and fall into the grill. But those are our ribs. Now we're going to go ahead, make the seasoning for these carnita ribs. So let's do that next. All right, so for these carnita ribs, we're going to go with that Mexican style of seasoning. Here I have 2 tablespoons each of cumin, chili powder, oregano, and kosher salt. To that, we're going to add some crushed black pepper, probably a tablespoon. Then I also want to go ahead and add some of this tahini seasoning. If you guys haven't tried this stuff out, it's fantastic. It's like chili powder basically, some salt obviously in there and stuff, but the big thing is it's got this tang to it. Makes it taste like limes. It's got that limey tang to it, which is going to be awesome for these carnitas because carnitas is usually a citrus-based recipe, so that's going to help out with that. Then optional, just a touch of cayenne, depending on how much heat you like. So that's our seasoning, pretty basic. Similar to something like a taco seasoning. So we're just going to go ahead and give this a nice mix. And that smells delicious. I can smell that liminess from the tahini. That cumin powder instantly reminds you of a Mexican dish. So we're just going to take our seasoning. We're going to generously coat the back side of the ribs first. Make sure you get those edges. All right, then we'll flip it over and generously season this top side here. All right, and go ahead and just pat that in. And these are ready for the smoker. I've got the smoker all fired up already. Like I said, I'm using some delicious oak wood. I love using oak in the smoker. It adds fantastic flavor. But let's go ahead, bring this out, throw it on the smoker. All right, we are out at the big offset smoker. Gonna open this up. Doing a little pork belly as well. So we're gonna get these ribs right on down on the grate. I like to give them a little push together. Helps you see where the bones are. You can see the little waviness. That'll help when cutting later. But let's get these in there. Close this up and let it smoke. All right, I've got the ribs on the smoker. I'm going to be running my smoker around 250 degrees. Try and maintain it around there. I'm going to let these ribs go for probably 3 hours at least, and then we'll see how they're doing there. I want to get a nice bark on there, but for the Carnitas-Style, I'm still trying to figure out what exactly I'm going to do. Now, if I end up wrapping the ribs, we're going to have to make some sort of a sauce to wrap it in, which is going to incorporate those Mexican flavors. Also still on the fence about making an actual sauce for them. I think I'm going to, because if I don't wrap them up, I'm going to need a way to incorporate the carnita flavors into there. So I think with a light basting sauce, not like a thick barbecue sauce, this is going to be something very thin. Probably go that route. So either way, most likely there's going to be a sauce. If I have to wrap it up, I'm probably just going to use the sauce in the wrap. So we're going to be making a carnita style sauce, it sounds like to me. So while these ribs cook, let's go ahead and try and make this carnita style sauce. All right, this is a super simple sauce. Starts off with 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Then we're going to need a tablespoon of orange zest. It's going to add some nice citrus flavor to this. Then a tablespoon of lime zest as well. Then we're also going to use the juice of 1 whole lime in there. And then the juice of half of the orange. It's very citrus heavy barbecue sauce. It's going to make it taste absolutely delicious. Now we're going to go in with about 2 tablespoons of molasses. It's going to add some nice sweetness. And then another 2 tablespoons of honey, and this is really what's going to make it be a delicious glaze. It's going to be super sweet and citrusy. This is going to be the perfect sauce for these carnita ribs. So go ahead and mix that up. It's going to take some work to mix the molasses and honey. And then that's pretty much it. This is going to be our glaze. So let's go ahead and check on these ribs. All right, it's been 3.5 hours. Check these ribs. Got a beautiful bark on there. Looking really good. Definitely needs some more time. See the pullback on the bone needs a little bit more. Let me check it for tenderness and temp. So we're at 178 and I could feel definitely isn't as tender as I'd like, but you can see that bark's really nice. So this is going to need a wrap for sure. And what I decided to do is just wrap this up regular style, then we'll add the sauce later. So let's get these inside, wrap them up, and get them right back on this smoker. All right, so it's been 1 more hour on the ribs. These should be nice and tender. Let's go ahead and get them out of the paper here. Oh yeah, these are tender. They're starting to fall apart. So check those out. You can see they have pulled off the bone nicely. They are super tender. Now we just gotta hit them with that glaze. So I'm just gonna go ahead, brush some of this delicious carnitas glaze on there. With all that citrus juice, little molasses and honey. This is going to be the final touch on some delicious ribs. You can already see the nice sheen they're getting. So since this is such a thin sauce, we're gonna have to glaze these pretty often. I'm gonna glaze these probably 4 to 5 times every 5 minutes. So we're looking at another 25 to 30 minutes on the smoker, just giving them a glaze. At this point, it is totally fine if you let your smoker get down in temperature, because we're just looking to set this glaze up. They don't really need to cook anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and cook these for another 20 minutes or so and glaze them every 5 minutes. Once they're done, I will see you inside and we will give these a try. All right, guys, ribs are done. I had a little camera malfunction, so I have to reshoot the final scene here, so there is a rib missing. Now, what I was saying before was, usually with a recipe that I like to do that's new to me, I'll cook it a couple times before I throw it on the YouTube channel to make sure it's tweaked out good. But for this, I have not tried this before. Thought of the idea, decided let's do a video on it because I'm sure it's going to be good. So this is going to be an authentic reaction to this. Problem is, I already cut a rib off and I tried it before on the initial scene that got screwed up. So it's not too authentic. But check out these ribs. See the beautiful glaze we have on here. That glaze we made is fantastic. Super simple, just with the orange, the lime, the zest, and the molasses and honey. Creates a beautiful glaze on here. Let me go ahead, slice one of these ribs off. I'll let you see them, and then I will give it a try. All right, so check that out. Perfectly cooked rib. It's nice and tender, juicy, but it's not completely tear apart. If you overcook a rib and you try and slice it up, you'll notice that it'll just kind of fall apart. It's very difficult to cut. So this is perfect where you can cut it, it stays together, but when you take a bite, it is fall off the bone. So without further ado, let me go ahead, give this a try for a second time. Just as good as the first time. It is a delicious sweetness to it with the molasses and honey. Get a awesome orange flavor on there, and then underneath you have those Mexican flavors with the cumin and the chili powder. It is so good. This is a delicious rib, guys. Highly recommend giving this a try, and it's super simple, really not that bad. The glaze is easy, and the seasoning is also very simple. See, we got a nice smoke ring on here. It has a beautiful smoke flavor. I love using that oak wood. It adds fantastic flavor. It's not overpowering, but it's not too light. Now, sometimes with ribs, if you've been cooking barbecue for a while, it gets a little boring, you know. Do the traditional barbecue seasoning, cook it, wrap it with the brown sugar, honey, and butter, take it off, put some barbecue sauce on it. Yes, it's good, but how many times can you do that? You got to bring out some different flavor of ribs. So I always love experimenting with different kinds of ribs, and these Carnitas-style ribs are probably on the top of the list for my style of ribs that I like to do besides barbecue after this one. These things are so good. With a fatty, heavy style of pork like a St. Louis or spare rib, that citrus cuts right through it, makes it super enjoyable. You could definitely do these with baby back, but I would definitely do them with the St. Louis or the spare ribs because of the fat level in there. So good. I am super excited how this came out. These are some of the best ribs I've cooked. That orange citrusy flavor is so good with these ribs. It's a nice sticky glaze, sweet, delicious. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. Apologize for all the audio interruptions and the camera malfunction here at the end, but either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. I'll leave a link to everything I like to use in my videos. That'll be down in the description below if you're interested. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe right over here. And I'll leave a couple of other barbecue videos over here, rib based. I'm gonna do my tahine ribs. Those are fantastic with a different style as well. But most importantly, get out there and smoke something good.